Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus arcade video, and what we're going to be taking a look at today is Initial D Arcade Stage 4, which right now you see the test menu. It doesn't say anything that would identify it, but if you're hearing a really loud noise on the microphone, it's because if you look down on the floor here, that is the Sega Lindbergh, which has a really loud fan right in the front here, which is just like a turbine engine, it's so loud. And of course the Game Capture HD is kind of sitting on the top. Pedals are down on the floor there where I can access them. And of course over here is the JVS Type 1 I/O board, which currently is sitting on top of the GD-ROM for the Naomi. And of course it's being powered by its power supply since I don't have any proper adapters to connect it to the Lindbergh power supply. But what we have here is the actual control panel that was made for Initial D version 3, and I've actually known people to say you can't use this with this game, but I can personally attest, you see here the shifter, I can personally attest that this is absolutely fully functional, with the only thing that doesn't work is the change view button. It actually operates as down on the control panel, but the cool part about this is where you have to use up and down, you just can use shifter up and down, and that works just fine. And when you have to do left and right, you can just turn the wheel left and right, and that works fine as well. So this control panel, aside from the change view button, is fully functional. And the only other thing is that the start button does not light up, but that's no big deal either. Well, enough of me talking about this. Let's get right into this and take a look at a little bit of Initial D Arcade Stage 4, or version 4, depending on what version you're talking about. So let's get right. And of course, when you get into this, it's going to show the whole presented by Sega and all the different manufacturers who had to do with this, and then like the whole, this works with Japanese fonts, and this is a work of fiction. Don't drive like this really on the road because it'd be really bad for you. And of course, if you hadn't seen, I actually had uploaded the intros elsewhere. So let's get right into the gameplay here. As you can see, there are several manufacturers, including Initial D special cars, but what I'm going to do is the Nissan Skyline 6-speed that I usually use, and choose it in blue. And of course, since I have the shifter, I choose automatic. And now this actually doesn't have the Bunta challenge. It just has the versus mode, Legends of the Street, which is what this is, and time attack. Now, if you have seen anything of the original Initial D 1 through 3 or my earlier video, you'll recognize some of the characters here. And just after this load break, you're going to see the story scenes, which are actually fully animated now. They're not just like stills with text under them. So I'll let you take a look at this right now, once it, of course, comes up. A little bit of load time to load off the hard drive. Not too bad, though, considering early CD-ROM games. They always took quite a while to go.
GTR だ。すっげえ迫力あるな。やっぱ存在感あってかっこいいよ。いつき、その人の車みたいだぞ。うわ、すいません。今日は走りに来たんですか。ちょうどいいや。俺竹内いつきって言うんだけど、よかったら一緒に走らない？
And of course, basically the same old setup as the first games. Basically, Iggy wants to show off and show you like how good he is at racing. And instead of the traditional Miyogi course, it's just this different one, this Lake Akina, which kind of is the replacement for Miyogi in this game. Now, I'm not going to lie here. Last night was actually the first time I played this, and I found that I could get through this stage pretty easily without really trying all that hard, if you will. Now, of course, as a lot of the articles I have here say, this is the sequel to Initial D Arcade Stage version 3, and it's been heavily updated, pretty much built from the ground up. It underwent some location testing between October 21st and October 30th in 2006 in the Tokyo, Osaka, and Aomori, Japan game centers, which the Aomori, Japan one was in February of 2007. And of course, the international version of this game came out in July of 2007, which is what you actually see right here. It got its Japanese release on February 21st of 2007. And now, just like some of the other games on this hardware, they use data cards, which are actually different from the Magneton cards used in the original Initial D games. They use actually IC cards, which actually have a small memory chip in them. And now the regular cabinet of this game is a 32-inch LCD screen supporting what's called the WXGA resolution, which is 1366 by 768. And now, instead of the gear shift being where it is on my control panel, where it's kind of attached to the control panel, since the arrow keys kind of had to be in that general area, well, at least that's where they put them, the shifter is kind of more toward the side of the seat, which is actually like the more accurate position for the shifter. So if you're used to like driving one of these cars, you probably would enjoy that a lot more than it kind of being attached to the control panel. Now, there actually are quite a few courses in this game. This is just the first one, which, as you would imagine, is the easiest, so it didn't take me much. This is the Lake Akina, which replaces the fake Miyogi beginner course. Similar to the previous year, this course is similar to a circuit such the start to finish point are the same location. And of course, without much effort, I won that because it's not too hard. And let's hear the next part of our story here, where Iggy gets surprised that he lost. Just like any of these things, all of the racers are always in that, I'm gonna win no matter what type attitude. So here we are.
8号を乗りこなせたらな。いや、それなりにいい線いってたぜ。そっか、そう思うか、匠。実は自分でもちょっとすげえんじゃねえかって思ってたんだよ。これなら匠に追いつくのも時間の問題だな。ちゅ、元気なもんだぜ。 負けたのはちょっと悔しいけど楽しかったよ。俺がもう少し速くなったらまた一緒に走ろうぜ。
And now for the next story sequence for the next of the total of 3 races, which it's kind of disappointing that there's not 4 like stages 1 and 2 had, and then they got rid of the 4th stage in Initial D3 for some reason, which I still do not understand at all.
まだバトルし足りないって？でも俺じゃもうちょっと練習しないと相手にならないみたいだし。せめてここにある車が8号じゃなくて匠の86なら少しは勝負になったかもしれないんですけどね。そんなことないぞ、いつき。なあ、俺にちょっとだけこの車運転させてくれ。どうする気だよ。俺の8号と匠んちの86じゃ好きとすっぽんだろ。 いいから助手席に乗れ。よく見てろよ、いつき。この車の本当の限界を今から見せてやるから。
And of course, just like the earlier Initial Ds, it's the same situation where Iggy has now lost and Tak is basically saying, let me take your car. I'm going to show this guy who's boss and show like the true potential of this vehicle. And as I was saying, like this course is the new like easy course, and then that's followed by the new Miyogi, which is a more realistic forward point-to-point course seen in the manga and anime, and on the Initial D special stage PlayStation 2 game. It's a mountain road with a downhill and uphill direction similar to Akagi and Akina. Unlike the actual route, the game is noticeably wider, possible to reduce the difficulty. Then of course there's the hard courses, which is Akagi, which is retained from the previous installments with no changes except, of course, the graphics. And then there's the regular Akina, which, being the primary course, Akina is retained as well. However, the snow racing condition is removed, which it had been earlier, apparently. And then there's Irohazuka. Being a one-way road, all races in Irohazuka are downhill. However, the uphill reverse route can be selected in time attack and in story battle mode. In-store battle mode, I'm sorry. That means like when you have two machines linked up. And then the final expert course is Tsukuba, which is the tough final stage of the game. It's a long, narrow, and windy mountain road that comprises both an uphill and downhill section with a lot of hairpin turns. To chronicle with the manga, this is the stage where the player will meet the toughest opponents, including God Arm, God Foot, and Project D. Which, it'll probably take me a while to get up to that kind of level, but the one thing I definitely have to say with this game, as opposed to the previous games, which is one of those love-hate things, you're either going to really like this or you're really going to hate this, but this game has a really, like, floaty, drifty type steering, which, in the next stage, Miyogi, is actually very useful because it's a very drifty stage. And without that ability to drift, you really can't get through that stage, because that's pretty much the whole point of Miyogi in this, is because it has like all the hairpin turns, which require you to drift an awful lot. And if you couldn't do that, it honestly would be near impossible, unless like both of the players were going to just keep braking and slowing down all the time, which would just really get boring. And I remember in these last two races, when I first played them, I didn't do too well. I only, like, barely finished on time. Especially the very last one was one of those, like, photo finishes where I just barely beat them. But, of course, I was surprised I did in the first shot. But then again, I could say I'm cheating a little bit because I did play, with the controller at least, Initial D Extreme Stage on the PS3, which is similar to this.
やっぱり匠の運転は異常だぜ。悪かったな。無理やり運転しちまって。謝ることねえよ、匠。そりゃ前が負けたのはすげえ悔しいけど、俺車の性能じゃないんだってよく分かった。腕さえ良けりゃはしごでもあんなにすごい走りができるって分かったからな。早いね君。こいつに勝っちゃうなんてすっごいことだよ。それじゃあ俺たちそろそろ帰るよ。またね。
And now for the final story sequence in the Lake Akina easy stage here of the game. This will be the last, our final opponent, which this is a rather insulting intro to these characters. You'll see in just a minute here.
Yeah, 君って地元の人? 俺たち東京から来て麓の旅館に泊まってんだけど、なんかアキナって思ったよりも少ないね、走り屋の車。
そうそう、もっと賑やかなのかと思ってたのにな。
だからそれっぽい車見かけたらつい嬉しくなっちゃってさ。どれどれ、ちょっと見せてくれる？そうそう、金持ちでテクのないやつに限ってこういう車に乗りたがるんだよな。
確かに誰が乗っても速いよね。ちょっとミスっても車がフォローしてくれるし。
車に乗っけてもらってるだけだよね。自分で気づいていればいいんだけどね。
そんなこと言っちゃ悪いよ。本人も気にしてるみたいだし。
君、自分の車にパーツとかつけないの？もしかしてガソリン代で精一杯だとか？あ、悪いこと聞いちゃったかな。それにしてもわざわざ東京から来たのになかなかバトルできなくてさ、サーキットで鍛えた僕のテクを見せてやろうと思ったのに。そうだ、せっかくだから君と走ってあげようか。僕のスーパーテクを見たいだろう。
And as you could see there, they basically were saying that this car is just like a car of somebody who's like a rich person who doesn't know how to drive, so they figure they would like kind of goat you into a race. And just like the night kids from the first 3 games, this is your first like night race. I can honestly say it's a little bit harder because you can't see the what's coming as easily as you could in like the daylight, but considering you're basically doing the same course as you were doing when you faced Iggy, it's not that bad, other than, as I said, not being able to see like much far ahead what you had seen before. And another thing I want to say is, after completing the Tsukuba stage, the player automatically starts a match with the legendary racer Bunta Fujiwara. The stage is in the Akina downhill with the dry track and at night. Regardless of the result, the game is considered complete after this stage, and Bunta will appear as Akina's final opponent during the succeeding playthroughs. So more or less it sounds like you unlock him. And now this version of Initial D 4 that I'm actually playing here is considered Initial D Arcade Stage 4 Kai, or the International Edition as they've called it, because I believe the Kai moniker was only afforded to the Japanese version, which is why you don't see it on the screen in the picture here. But you gotta really be careful with these guys, because they really can get you. And as I said, the first time I played this last night, I actually barely beat them. I believe it was kind of like around the last bend of the race when I like finally came around the bend and more or less went through the finish line like a second or 2 before them. And I was like kind of surprised myself that I ended up doing that. Which, of course, I was quite happy that I ended up beating these guys. And I was thinking, like, you know, there's no way this is going to happen, because this was the first time that I played the game. And now, if you didn't know, the intro song there was actually by the artist who did the Initial D 3 and 4, I mean 2 and 3 intro song, Gamble Rumble, but this one's called Out of Control. And the music featured in this stage is Let's Go Come On by Manuel and Fast Ways Go Beat Crazy, which I believe might be the song playing right now. Yeah, you can hear him say Go Beat Crazy in the background there. But yeah, basically that's Initial D4. Very good game. I highly recommend it if you can find it, or if you can find Extreme Stage. Very fun game to play. It's an excellent game, although you may or may not like the drifty physics.
君が僕に話しかけるから負けたじゃないか。本気を出せばこの僕が負けるはずない。集中できなかったから負けたんだ。自分だって喋ってたじゃん。とにかく今日はもう遅いから帰るよ。
This has been another Game Nexus arcade video, and I shall see you later. Bye.